part. Okay, for the audience member, let's just address. Okay, Mikey now has power and control over the screens, and he's going to be kind of moving us around, in and out, back and forth. And it's first day, so we'll see how it goes. Mike, no pressure, okay?
Apparently, some people complained that I wasn't appealing on screen, and so they wanted less of me in the show. And so
it looks like Mikey's falling asleep every time Nick or Scott talk.
And so now they've given me a fake control that's not plugged in, like the little brother, the CPU. So I will run mad with the controls.
There we go, Mike. Congrats on your promotion on the new gig. So there we go. Besides that, how you guys doing? What's going on?
Dude, not bad. Just celebrated my daughter's second birthday here over the past week. So, I'm just trying to get my feet underneath me right now and trying not to be sick. That's the goal.
Mike, that's the second year in a row that we didn't get Scott's daughter anything for her birthday.
Yeah. I wrote her a poem.
Jerks.
She'll be able to read it in a couple of years.
No more poems on this show.
Scott, with the sickness, just take zinc and sauna and you'll live forever.
Oh, yeah. Sauna. I mean, the good thing is I'm in Southern California, so I'm not battling the bitter cold or winds or anything like that. So I'm just, I'm softening it up over here.
Oh, there you go. Hey, I'm battling a snowstorm here in Southern Germany. So by the way, if I cut out and my internet's bad, it's because the storm is attacking my Starlink and my internet sucks. Okay. So
don't worry. Mikey can drive the boat, drive the ship, whatever it is. He'll take it from there.
Yeah, right. So much. Right. Yeah. Cut me out if I lag out. A lot of pressure on you. You can do a great job. Okay. All right. I want to start off and I want to talk about this. Maybe it doesn't seem like that big of a story, guys, but this Pat McAfee. Oh, there you go, Mike. That's so, I missed you. No, Mike's already bored. This Pat McAfee stuff. And essentially, he threw up a tweet. And now, Mikey, a lot of pressure here because I'm going to share this tweet and you are going to have to share it.
Buttons.
And here we go. Let's see there. So Pat McAfee went off. Nice, Mike. There you go. Killing it. Pat McAfee went off, obviously, on his former team, the Colts. And this is super long. If you're watching the video here, you can kind of read through this or just go check out the tweet and set him yourself. But McAfee going off on the Colts, talking about how it's terrible culture. It's an embarrassment. He's not going to be renewing his season tickets. And the entire organization is just kind of in shambles here. And I thought this was really, really interesting. It's getting a lot of traction on social media because this organization, first of all, I think it's the only one in that division that has not won a division title since the reign of the new GM has been there. And so they have just been like, since the Peyton Manning era, since they pushed him out, this is like an alumni of the organization, pushed him out, kind of destroyed the relationship there. And now Pat McAfee, another famous alumni of the organization, have ostracized him. And now he said, like I said, he's not going to renew his season tickets. I wanted to get your initial reaction to this, Scott, because I've got some strong feelings about this and kind of when organizations behave this way and sever relationships with their former players.
Yeah, this is weird. I mean, look, obviously Pat, aside from Peyton, Pat is absolutely the second biggest Colt of all time, strictly because of what he's built after his professional career, which is great nonetheless. So, it's interesting that the Colts organization, which had such a dominant run outside of the Patriots throughout the early 2000s and then early 2010s. And then they even, you kind of alluded to it. Yeah, they pushed out Peyton, but they also found success in Andrew Luck. And granted, that was an absolute black swan event, similar to a Barry Sanders retiring probably before they were ready, physically at least, but mentally they were just kind of done with it and on to other things. So this is really interesting to see an organization kind of crumbling before our eyes over a long period of time, right? Because all of our memories stretch back to when they were at the top of the mountain with the Patriots, or at least battling for that top spot. It's almost too obvious to ignore now. If somebody like a Pat is calling them out, dude, you got to get right. Something's got to change in that organization and that building, because you can't be pissing off the top media dude right now in the sports world like this.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, that's the thing. It's Pat McAfee is one of the biggest names in sports media. He loves Indianapolis. He loves the city. He loves the Colts. And that's what he even says in his tweet there. It's he's given so much to this organization and to this city. And
Yeah.
for him to feel like he has no connection left with the organization and that the culture is just not there. And he alluded, or he pointed out the fact of Anthony Richardson tapping out on that key third down a few months ago.
Yeah,
It was like,
man.
dude, this is a key play in your quarterback who's your leader is tapping out, basically like, oh, I'm too tired to go on this key down. This is the reason that this hit me so hard, dude, is because this is kind of similar to the way that I feel with my former organization here in Germany. Played there for a long, long time, just like Pat McAfee played for his for a long, long time. Had a great relationship with the organization, all the people there, loved the culture. And since I have retired there, I no longer recognize it in a similar way. Culturally, it is not the same. A few people came up in leadership positions in that organization that have completely changed it and made me feel just completely separated from it, which was quite shocking because honestly, I thought like, okay, I'm going to be lifelong involved with this organization.
Right.
And it just goes to show that, and this is something that I can't remember where I heard it once before, but like you can never really give your allegiance to an organization. You can give it to a cause or a purpose, but not to an organization, because an organization will always destroy the relationship with the individual in the long run.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Well, okay. Could you give any more detail? Because like obviously you were there for such a long time, and you were doing so many different things. Obviously, with your media background and producing and all that kind of stuff. And like, could you maybe give people more color as to like what that actually like? What was that linchpin moment that I was just like, oh, this thing took a turn and it's going downward right now? Like, was it before your documentary? Was it after? What was that look like?
Oh, dude. I mean, I'm gonna try and like dance a little bit here and not say everything, but it was after the documentary, which I put so much of my heart and soul into, just similar to how Pat McAfee put so much of his
dude, he built that up.
Yeah, he does that and builds that up. Basically, this new person who came into the organization almost claiming credit for the documentary and saying that they did me a favor. And
granting you access, all that kind of stuff.
Granted me access, when in reality, and from my perspective, I think I actually sacrificed quite a bit for this, and it brought eyeballs to the organization in a very positive way. And to kind of be just slapped in the face this way, that coupled with the way that they treated a few of my really close friends and former coaches and kind of mentors and kind of kicked them on the way out with this new guard that came in, this new leadership, that's just gave me have a very similar reaction to Pat McAfee here in this situation.
Yeah.
Mike,
and
go ahead, Scott.
Well, I wanted to finish it off real quick. It's like, to your point, it's talking about the business relationship and everything like that. Like at the end of the day, it is incumbent upon the person who maybe the second party, not the business entity, to understand that fact when you're going into a relationship. Yeah, you can build those friendships and that trust within those friendships as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it is a business. It is something that is moved, for the better or for the worse, by the dollar. And that's just the reality of the situation. So it's like, it's tough to see, especially for the player side who, they put their blood, sweat, and tears into things. And when they get jaded by an organization, like I understand it cuts deep, but it's just like, man, this is a business at large, and they're going to start moving, as you said, in the direction that they want to go. And they are willing to sacrifice a relationship, because at the end of the day, the relationship might not be what they recognize as moving the dollar sign up or down.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting here with my former organization is that it's almost the opposite of the Colts. Like, for example, another friend of mine, coach, who led one of the teams to a championship, well, they kicked him out. They fired him after creating a women's program and leading it all the way to the championship. And so it's kind of the opposite. It was a little bit too much success for them. Mike,
overshadowing others. That's the problem.
Yeah. Mikey, what? How do you feel about this?
I had a joke that would have timed well about a minute and a half ago, but here it is.
I killed it.
Put yourself on screen.
The new person in the organization that took all the credit was me.
It was Mikey Alfieri, 2022. That was good, Mike.
That's all.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Anyway, so this was just I think I wanted to ask you though, do you think that this is because I've been a little bit hesitant ever to even speak about this kind of stuff.
Mm.
Do you think this is appropriate for Pat McAfee as kind of a professional face of a lot of things of ESPN, of his show, representation of how we consume a lot of sports? Do you think this is appropriate, or do you think this is a little bit too emotional?
Yeah, no, look, I'm a big fan of Pat McAfee, and I watch his show all the time, listen to his show all the time because I love that group of dudes and everything that he's built up so far. I've been following him for years before ESPN and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard for me to like necessarily speak against him if I feel a certain type of way. Because like clearly he's feeling as I was speaking to, the emotional relationship bond to the organization. You mentioned all the stuff that he's given up. He's built his business in that city. He's stayed in that city when you hit a certain level, like you're not going to stay in Indianapolis, Indiana. If you're a media company, I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So like the fact that he has stayed loyal to that area has put, obviously his sweat equity, business equity into that city and that region. It's understandable that he would react this way because this is like he's built up a life, a business, a media organization that has supported that organization through and through because he is the face, he is a former player, all that kind of stuff. So, this may be a little bit of a personal, emotional outburst on his part, but it's hard to fault him because, like I said, like when those ties and that relationship become so deep for so long, and then there's a rift, like it can cause this sort of reaction. Maybe Pat, but this is why he's so big, is because he is more of a gregarious, like outgoing dude, and he'll speak his mind regardless of parameters or rules within the media realm. So like this is almost refreshing to hear it from a player of his status post career, because some organizations probably do need to be call it lambasted by their former players more frequently for the way in which they're run. So I'm kind of on the fence here with this.
Lambasted is a great vocab word. Mike, write that down wherever you are. There you go. Good.
I'm here.
There you go.
I agree with Scott. Here's the thing.
Okay.
You need the former players because they have the true inside perspective and the perspective that coaches don't have. And now that they mature, they're out of the program, they have even a better, more important perspective. So there's even more reason to take their word seriously. Mm-hmm. And so to just kick these guys out and think they have no value to offer you when they've given so much life to your organization, it's pretty stupid.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. That is exactly kind of what happened here with the Unicorns, with all of these longtime people who had given so much to it and had a great perspective on how to continue the culture of it, and kind of the new executive people who came in and just booted it, and now it's a mess, and they're having to kind of rebuild from scratch.
Oh yeah, they're pretending they're a dying organization. You'll see. No.
Yeah, it's a lot of egos are at play here, especially in a sport like the NFL that has the dollars behind it that it does and the eyeballs on it that it does. There are a lot of egos here, and I'm not saying Pat's the ego here. Granted, he's one of them, but within an organization that takes multiple people to build up and keep running and running smoothly, like you can see where some people might act, call it irrationally, or rationally in their mind, but irrationally to everybody else, which like cuts the knees out from the organization and the culture and moving forward. So like, yes, former players probably do need to speak out. And if you have a platform like Pat McAfee's, this is vastly different than any of the platforms that other people use to further certain narratives of years past. I think this is more directional to an organization and how it's run and how it's treating its current players, its process, and its former players. And I think what was really good about Pat is like, dude, him pointing out the issues of the preseason hard knocks with the New York Giants and being like, yo, we can't have this dirty laundry shown as to how players are treated internally. And it can't be this like kind of off the cuff sort of process. It just seems like a bad move here. I think he's just gotten frustrated with the fact that was unearthed. And I think he's ready to just say like, okay, frustrated that it was unearthed, but frustrated that it's even happening and people being treated like this. So I'm going to point out my organization in the same way and be like, yo, get right and don't be treating people like this.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about this is like, you can't have this type of visceral reaction to the point where you are putting out a huge essay on social media unless you truly care. Like this is clearly kind of an emotional response from Pat McAfee. And it means that he actually cares about the organization. If it's just like, it's the team that I played for, whatever. Yeah, they suck now. The culture sucks. Who cares? He wouldn't react this way. But this this kind of what some may think is a little bit of an over-the-top reaction actually indicates that he truly cares about the organization and the culture there. But you know what?
And also, he's got no money on the line.
True.
These are the guys who are employed by these organizations. Like, it's a purity from McAfee's perspective.
True. When you've got no money on the line, nothing to gain. He's got really nothing to gain or lose there. He's like just speaking the absolute truth. And he is tapped in. And, it's talking about guys being late to meetings, guys not showing up to treatment, all these little things that are just like, that's a bad football culture. And then I think the one that us as fans were able to see so visually was Richardson with the helmet tap out, which is just the pin of the pimple. What is this? What is this saying?
The straw that broke the camel's back.
There you go.
Never heard the pimple one before, but I'm gonna use it. I want to use it.
I just been hitting like a couple pimples on my shoulder, and so I was just thinking, take me back to high school.
Scott, old man back hair coming in.
Mikey, Scott used to always make fun of my shoulder and trap pimples when we were in high school. My walker was next to him, a Jesuit. He was like, dude,
you okay, man? Like, what's
good.
happening?
Scott is the stereotypical high school bully. Make fun of the pimples. He also stole your lunch money, pushed you in the locker, kind of stuff. It made you better.
Yeah. Look at me now. I'm in the middle of pimples. There you go. So it is the tip of the pimple, as they say. You know what? Okay, so the Colts are out of the playoffs due to their atrocious culture. So nicely pointed out by Pat McAfee. You know who's not out of the playoffs, you guys? And who I've been over here just screaming my head off, deserves more recognition. We should be bowing down to him. Joe Burrow and Cincinnati Bengals are still alive. Mikey, I'm going to throw this up here, please.
Here you go.
Here we go. Let's see if you can do it. Share this tab. Here we go. Almost. No, you're going to get it.
I got nothing. Nothing popped up.
It's already there.
It's there. There you go. Joe Burrow leading the Bengals all the way back to a 500 record. And if you're just listening right now, this is the scene from 1917, the World War I movie, where the guy goes through an intense journey to help out his squad. That's Joe Burrow. They are now 500, 8-8 going into the final week, and they can still make the playoffs. And nobody thought that they could a few weeks ago, except me on this show. You guys remember?
Yeah. You've been a champion of the Bengals throughout this entire season, so I give it to you here. But perfect representation of going through trench warfare.
Just sort of equivalent.
Yeah, these make sense. Yeah, dude. Okay, but I gotta say, you brought it up last week, or the week before. I forget which, but you posed the question to Mikey and me as to whether or not Joe Burrow is deserved of potential MVP, MVP award.
Right.
And the stipulation for both of us, Mikey and myself, was if they make the playoffs. Dude, his performance this past weekend was unreal, dude. And he's single-handedly willing his team and bringing it, well, not single-handedly because you need Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but
two-handedly.
Yeah, three-handedly. So it's like it's now gaining steam in my mind that he might be deserving of that MVP award if they make the playoffs, because this is nuts.
Thank you. Also, this guy on Twitter says the same thing. This is like this dude. I just showing a tweet here for the listeners. Give Joe Burrow the MVP if they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
However, I'm saying right now, even if they don't, why? Look, okay. Hey, look at this. Look at this meme I got right up here. This is the unpopular opinion right now. Joe Burrow, the Bengals being a bad team, should strengthen Joe Burrow's MVP case, not weaken it. The fact that they're even in the conversation, they're sitting at 500 right now, maybe going to make the playoffs. He's having an all-time historic season. And we're down to, okay, if all these scenarios happen.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the scenarios right here. The way that they could, sorry, no, the wrong one. Sorry, a lot of tabs on right here. Here it is.
Pop-ups.
Yeah, damn pop-ups. That playoff picture. If the Broncos win versus the Chiefs, then the Broncos are in. Now, the tough thing about this is the Chiefs might sit a lot of their main guys. If the Broncos lose and the Dolphins win against the Jets, then the Dolphins are in. If both the Broncos and the Dolphins lose and the Bengals win against the Steelers, then the Bengals are in. What is the likelihood you think of this happening?
I don't know. Broncos beating the Chiefs, even if Patrick Mahomes sits, I still think is a difficult. It's a difficult ask, and I think it's 1 in 100 chance here in my estimation.
So you're saying
there's a chance. Nice.
Mike, the last 2 shows, we've had the exact same joke at the exact same time.
See, I add value.
Alfieri brain.
Did you, if there's redundancy?
Yeah, it's that is, look, Mike, we've just given you a new medium which to convey humor and comedy. That was like you're like a mime conveying comedy without even saying anything with that move right there. Who's the backup quarterback of the Chiefs? Carson Wentz is the backup quarterback. He will probably play. But this is something that I actually wanted to bring up. You think it's a 1 in 100 chance? I think it's maybe closer to 1 in 27, approximately 1 in 27 chance. I think the Bengals will win against the kind of fluttering Steelers, who have been bad as of late.
Yeah.
You never know with that the Jets Dolphins game. Can the Jets beat the Dolphins? Yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of brightness from the Jets. Like Aaron Rodgers actually played a little bit better, aside from most recent weekend.
Yeah, we got to cover that.
Aside from then, but maybe he bounces back.
Yeah. You're right. I think the Dolphins are easily a beatable team, even with the Jets. So I don't know, dude. To be quite frank, when I threw out that 1 in 100 chance, I was deep in the weeds of trying to find out the last time an MVP won without making it to the playoffs, and I was wondering if Barry Sanders might have been that last player, because he's the only one I could think of that was so good and his team was so bad. So I think here let's go down this rabbit hole. Maybe we can have Mikey do the research while we continue to talk. But I think, dude, they went 9-7. Oh, they clinched a wild card spot in 97.
Who are you talking about? Who are you talking? Barry
Sanders. Yeah. So in 97, this opens up a whole nother can of worms. He won the MVP award with Brett Favre in 97. The Lions posted a 9-7 record and clinched a wild card spot as a number 5 seed in the NFC. So, okay, they made the playoffs. So the precedent has been set, even if it's a wild card team, terrible throughout the year, but somehow made it to the end. Hey, dude. Okay, that chance decreases to maybe 1 in 29.
There we go. All right, 1 in 29. Give me that. Hey, check this out right here. Mikey, will you throw this up, please? I got another great, just hot fire meme. Patrick Mahomes realizing if the Chiefs lose to the Broncos on purpose, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are out of the playoffs. With how hot and how good the Bengals are playing right now and kind of hitting their stride right at this time, I would say the Broncos are a more appealing team to have in the AFC playoff bracket than the Bengals. I think Patrick Mahomes would feel maybe a little bit more excited and more comfortable knowing Joe Burrow is at home watching in his mansion with whatever that swimsuit model employee, whatever she is Batmobile. But I want to bring this up. Do you think that this actually ever happens in professional sports? Do you think that these professional athletes and professional coaches actually would ever strategically lose? And this kind of gets into the conversation of tanking as well.
I think this is a vastly different situation, even though, it would be purposefully losing. I think this is different. When it has playoff implications, I think this is far more egregious if you are somehow able to prove somebody lost to keep another team out. It's just weird to think of how competitive NFL dudes are. It's weird to think of them as choosing to lose for a value add. It just kind of boggles my mind. And we were talking about Pat McAfee at the beginning of the show. He always talks about his chance or his team when he was with Peyton Manning was with the team. They could have gone undefeated throughout the regular season, but they chose to lose, I think, their last 2 games by sitting people out. And I just find it very strange. We talk about the organizational aspect of things and the player aspect of things. It's strange to see competitors at that level choosing to lose in any regard. But I think it's just more egregious when we're talking about playoff implications and keeping a team out.
Well, I think there's a difference between choosing to lose and sitting your starters. I think sitting your starters is
What's the difference, though?
The difference
the chances of you winning are wildly decreased if you sit your starters.
Doesn't mean you're trying to lose. It's just you're protecting you. I mean, it also shows faith in your backups. Like, we can still win with our backups. It's giving them a shot. It's not necessarily saying I'm setting these guys so that we'll lose. I'm protecting these guys, and I'm giving our backups a chance to prove themselves.
Yes. We entered the spin room.
That doesn't necessarily mean much.
Spin doctor.
Yes.
No, I
am a doctor. And a
he
financial
is
advisor.
6 years away from a medical degree. We dealt with this actually a lot. I know I'm talking surprisingly about our Germany seasons in this episode, but we did this a lot in Germany. We would have to sit we would sit our starters for certain games when we had the playoffs clinched or the number 1 seed clinched for playoffs, and we would sit. Happened almost every single year. But we also still the energy on the team, and the goal was still to win, and it was getting some of these backup guys the opportunity to play and shine. So I do think there's a difference because you're still trying to win, but just with second string guys on the field.
Sure. But then you open up the can of worms of okay, if you're 3 games ahead in your division in the middle of the season, why don't you sit your starters at that point too and give your second string guys a chance to show themselves and show their worth so that they could potentially, benefit there. So I think I think it's too much of a gray area to just say okay, on the surface, you may not be trying to lose, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're trying to win.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're talking about if middle of the season is different. It's when there's 1 or 2 games left and you're clinched and truly nothing can change from your scenario.
Sure, this is why I'm saying there's a difference between tanking and this playoff situation. I don't know. It's just the competitor in me finds it very frustrating to even see a starter sit for. I mean, we're seeing this happen in the college ranks, which I'm sure you're angry and frustrated with. We're seeing this happen. I'm going to avoid injury, so I'm going to sit out. It's just dude, we can't be having this at the highest level. This is turning into the NBA sit out rest period. Yeah,
that's a good point. We're mixing into the NBA stuff, the load management.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, it is way different. The Chiefs probably sitting Mahomes and Kelsey and some of the other starters next week against the Broncos. That is completely different from this NBA soft bullshit.
I agree. The sport itself, they're absolutely more deserved of rest than others. But I think if this is a covert way of penalizing the NFL to try and increase the number of games each season or over time, this is a clever way of the players to be nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play beyond X number of games, regardless of how many you put on the schedule. I think that would be a great way of putting it.
Yeah, but do you think that it's players electing to not play in this game, or do you think it's?
I hope not. That's what I'm saying. It's it regardless of how it comes across. If you're sitting, it's just it feels as though a competitor is choosing not to compete, and that's what I hate about it.
Mikey, how did you feel because this happened for us in Germany? If you when you had to sit when we were clinched for the playoffs and they rested starters in the game, how did you feel when that happened as a competitor?
I always hated it. I thought it was so stupid. I wanted the highlights. I wanted the stats. The other thing is, so I went over to Germany. Okay. We were so good that we were up by 30, 40 by halftime, nearly every game. So I was over there for a full season and I played a total of 15 quarters of football.
Damn.
Literally. I counted. And so when I made my highlights, I was all these stats, this is over 15 quarters.
Yeah.
So I would send it to coaches or whatever. But that's what I do hate about, sitting. There are times where you need to max out and just throw it all again.
I got to say, when you get to that point, you play the first half, you're great, you're winning 45-0, it's a sunny day. Second half, undo your shoulder pads and let the younger guys get in there.
This is a 30-year-old talking.
If you're fine, see, I was trying to use GFL as a launching pad, so I needed those stats. I needed that film, and I needed, to have those second halves against shitty teams to get some sick runs. But in Nick's situation was completely different. He's established, he's a veteran, he did what he needed to do. It's time to rest. That's a completely different situation.
I was also using it as a launching pad to get to this podcast. Okay. So it worked.
Or the trampoline.
Yeah, thank you. It is an interesting conversation. I mean, we'll see. A lot of people are saying that the Chiefs would be silly to play their starters in this game that is essentially meaningless for them. And in a weird backwards roundabout way, they, in my opinion, they benefit from losing that game because it then does lock in the Broncos. And so it's kind of a win-win for them.
I just want to push back and say, like, if they're doing it to keep a team out, I think that's like a very just like a piss poor approach to competition at large. But I get it. It's strategic. Yes, the NFL is a business. The organization is run as a business. So this benefits the business aspect of things, as we were talking about earlier. And that's probably going to happen. I just hate it from a purist standpoint of competition at large. It just sucks to see this happening because I feel like we're getting this in so many different sports that we have, professional sports, and now it's bleeding into college sports, that it's just like, come on, man. Can't we just have like the purity of competition remain just that?
Hey. All right, well, we'll talk about the college sport aspect of it for a second, but then you're going to be happy at what happened in the Giants Colts game, which sent Pat McAfee into a fury of the Giants, who are in a great position to end the season as the worst team and get the number 1 pick or the top 2 pick. And boy, oh boy, Drew Lock was not having any of it, and the Giants got their first home win of the season, and the win actually hurt the team. But it was the purity, Scott, of competition.
But that's the situation of the difference between losing to keep a team out of the playoffs so that it benefits you in the playoffs versus like losing to tank. I think, as we mentioned at the top of this conversation, there's a difference between those two.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, if you're a Giants fan right now, you're probably feeling pretty pissed that they won.
Giants fans are always angry. So they've been in the dumps for so long. Welcome to the bottom of the barrel.
Giants and the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. Hey, you guys are going to get a solid top 5 pick, aren't you?
Top 7, I think it is. But the beauty of it is coming out of last week, a couple days ago, breaking news that we are going to restructure good old Deshaun Watson's contract so it doesn't absolutely hamstring us and kill the organization over the next 3 years, or I think it's 3 or 2 more years remaining on his contract. But finally, restructuring.
It's sad that like the best news to come out of Cleveland Browns is, we're restructuring the contract of our shitty quarterback that we're tied to.
We're going to keep him on for longer just for less. It's just like, no, we want him out. Just do it.
He's not going to have enough money to pay. Never mind.
No, Nick.
Oh, sorry. Mike, you know what I was going to say?
I know what you're going to say. And you're going to be punished. Get him out of here. I have so
He's
much
been
power.
removed.
Scott, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know, man.
All right, I'm kidding. I'm out of here.
Mikey cut himself off in the middle there. All right, well then, speaking of a guy who also kind of pulled himself out of a game here, our boy Aaron Rodgers, the other New York team, the New York Jets. And Mikey, just as you leave, I'm going to need you to throw this up here for us, please. The press conference from Aaron Rodgers here as they were down 33-0. Here it is, 20-second clip.
What was the conversation like with Jeff when you get out of the game? What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it was 33-0. We were sitting there, and I said at some point, probably go to Tyrod here, huh? And then the next play, they threw a screen for a touchdown, so it's 40-0.
So if you couldn't hear that there, Aaron Rodgers saying, okay, we were down 33-0, and I was sitting there and I told the coach, hey, we should probably go to Tyrod Taylor here, huh? Get me out. And then the next play they scored, and it was 40-0. So thoughts on this, feelings on this? Aaron Rodgers basically saying, get me out of this game. It's 33-0. We're getting our ass kicked. I'm what am I, too good to perform in a game like this when we're losing by so much? It's too embarrassing. How do you guys feel about this?
This one, okay, so I feel like I'm getting my argumentation here caught up in a pretzel because like this situation of him sitting himself down, at least he stepped foot on the field and attempted as well or as poorly as he did to get that W, even though they're not in playoff contention. I mean, a guy of Aaron Rodgers' caliber, Aaron Rodgers' age, like he's earned probably that right, I think, in all of our minds to sit down, especially the past couple of weeks when he hasn't really had anything to play for. They're not going to the playoffs, anything like that, outside of just competition's sake and like his dudes on the field and all that kind of stuff. So like, I respect the fact that he even steps foot on the field at this point in time in his career, and with as bad as they are. Granted, could the reason why they're as bad as they are be partly due to him? Yeah, maybe. But like it's I don't know. This situation is different. I don't think this was necessarily him quitting on his team. I mean, down 33-0 at that point in the game, like it makes sense. And Mikey speaking to getting guys some burn that otherwise might not have. Like maybe he was doing his guy Tyrod Taylor a solid.
Yeah. I think also with Aaron Rodgers is different because obviously he's been in the league for so long and he kind of has a player coach / mentality and perspective on the game. So like he can look at the game from a more objective point of view and see, okay, I'm looking at this from my perspective, but also from coaching decision perspectives. And from a coaching decision perspective, yeah, it's time to put in the backups, you know? And so he's also kind of helping his coaches out. He's like, okay, it's time to do that. Because sometimes coaches, especially in the NFL, you have younger coaches, and you're coaching guys who have more NFL experience than you. And sometimes you don't know how to handle a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Like I kind of have to defer to him. He's making more money. The organization's more invested in him. And he's kind of doing his coach a favor saying, okay, now it's time to.
That's actually a good point with like an interim head coach who maybe doesn't feel the authority. Like Aaron Rodgers is a bigger name than him. I mean, who is their interim head coach? Do you even know?
Brick. Oh shoot, I'm blanking on his name. Brick something. Oddly enough, same
Hamlin.
name. Yeah.
Not Brick.
Often confused with Brick Johnson, the son of the owner. Yeah, so
everybody in this organization is named Brick. That's why they snuck. Yeah, Mikey, that's a good point. I mean, with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old, and he is a mentorship position. I don't think that he was quitting on the team. This is the logical move here. What do you guys think though? Do the Jets? Obviously, they're going to get a new coach next year. Sorry, Brick. Do the Jets bring Aaron Rodgers back? And if not, does Aaron Rodgers have a market? Is there another team that will sign this 42-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury who started off pretty slowly this year? He's had some flashes and looks solid at times, but overall not been great. Do the Jets bring him back?
I think they should. I don't understand the desire to move on from Aaron Rodgers, even if he had a 1 year that was down. Like, yeah, you can point to his age, you can point to him coming off of a severe injury the year before, but he's moving around pretty solidly. I think it's more of an organizational issue from like top down, the coaching staff, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's necessarily Aaron Rodgers. It takes time to acclimate to a new environment. And yeah, his runway is short in that regard, but I don't think removing a guy of his knowledge of the game from the organization is going to benefit the organization. You're just going to be back to square one, trying to get a rookie QB developed in an organization that can't develop anybody. So like, what are you doing? You're probably better off keeping him.
Yeah, look at the last rookie QB they tried to develop, Zach Wilson. Who does he even play for now? That was terrible.
Well, I mean, even look at Sam Darnold and look at what he's doing now. It's like very clear. Obviously, there's some talent. Zach may have some talent that just we haven't been able to see because he's been poorly coached and developed to this point in his career. So like, I don't know. I don't see them moving away from a guy like Aaron Rodgers as being a right move, but they probably will.
Although, did you see there was a little interaction, another moment at the podium for Aaron Rodgers where one of the reporters asked him, hey, have you talked to Woody Johnson at all, the owner, about next year? And Aaron, in his kind of, his way, goes, well, you should ask Woody that. And he said, the reporter goes, so you didn't have any conversation with him? He said, nope, not yet. And it was very, it felt revealing. It felt like there was a little bit of tension there between Aaron Rodgers and Woody Johnson. So,
yeah, I don't like. My take is that he's probably not there next year, but I think that's a stupid move by the Jets. But it's not surprising. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like,
okay,
of course they would do that.
It would be very on brand for the Jets. But speaking of Sam Darnold, let's move then to the NFC North, the best division in football right now. Here's an interesting thing, all right? They're going to have 3 teams in the playoffs, and this coming week, the Vikings and the Lions play, and I think it's going to be the Sunday night game, and the winner of this will be the number 1 seed in the NFC and get that bye. I'm going to throw this up here, Mikey. Please throw it. Okay. Put this up for me, will you? All right.
Wunderbar.
In 105 years of NFL football, there are only 13 times where a team beat another team twice, then hosted the team in the playoffs and beat them again. The Packers lost twice to the Vikings and Lions, significantly decreasing their odds of losing to them in the playoffs. And this is kind of a jokey, humorous tweet. However, there's a lot of truth to this. So the Packers are actually 1-11 against every team that they've played this year that's not named the Lions and the Vikings. They're 0-4 against their division rivals there. But they're going to make the playoffs, and it's very, very difficult to beat a team, especially a good team and an improving team, 3 times in a season. We had this a few times in Germany when we played our kind of division rival twice in season. Then we ended up playing them in the German Bowl championship, and we won by a lucky ending. It just gets harder and harder. What are your thoughts on the status here of the NFC North and kind of the playoff implications?
I mean, I absolutely love the competitions that's been coming out of that division all year round.
Yes.
It's so sick. Like, just to see, especially the old school teams. One, obviously the Lions coming out for the bottom of the barrel, doing what they're doing is insane. Seeing the Green Bay Packers just continuing their dominance over the years is like, you have to at least clap your hands for that, because that's insane to continue to do that. The Bears, it's just been fun to watch them fall apart.
Fun? Okay. Fall apart.
Yeah. But dude, I don't know. This whole situation is interesting because it's like, yeah, there is an element which I, again, as a purist of this, I may not love, but they could have spent. Not that every team wants to like go against another team and necessarily lose, but this goes to the point of like, maybe they're keeping things in their back pocket and self-handicapping during those games during the regular season because they know they're good enough and will make the playoffs to if and when they do face each other in the playoffs, they can pull those things out of the bag and surprise the other team. Hopefully that's not the case, but that could be a reality.
How frustrating would that be as a team? Is like you beat a team twice in the regular season, and then when it matters, they boot you from the playoffs.
Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow, man.
Especially, man, for a team like the Lions, who
are
having a historic season for them, and then they're just riddled with injuries.
I know.
Dude, did you see? I just saw there was like a graphic that showed the amount of players that the Lions have on IR, and then the next second team that has players on IR, and there's just a huge gap. The Lions have the most players on IR by a substantial margin.
Yeah. It was like that mid-season when we saw that disparity of like teams with the most penalties, and it was like everybody was clustered together, and then the Ravens were like 25 penalties above everybody else. It's like the same thing with the injuries in the Lions.
Yeah, dude, it's just like I like personally, I hope that they can pull it out and at least make it to the NFC Championship game.
Dude, everybody's talking about Johnson, the OC at the Lions, for good reason. Like, incredible what he's doing. But the fact that Aaron Glenn isn't getting talked about more frequently and more loudly is incredible. The job he has done, I didn't even think that was possible in the NFL, to be able to find replacements and do what they're doing and keeping teams at bay.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, they're absolutely decimated. Like, the majority of those important injuries came on the defensive side of the ball. And so it speaks to the culture of the team to be able to find replacements and find
Listen
guys.
up, Jets.
Still be
and Browns.
Listen up. Still be able to find guys that can compete at a high level and like remain one of the top teams in the NFL and still be in a position going into week 17. What is it? Week 18 to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Mikey, will you throw this up here? This is a little video of the Vikings locker room. All right. The Minnesota Vikings. This is just cool, man. You just see the culture that Kevin O'Connell is building there. Here it is.
Yeah, dude.
Like, you got to just love seeing Sam Darnold be embraced by a team like that, especially everything that he went through with the Jets and then bouncing around to the Panthers and the 49ers and now seemingly finding a home. And then Kevin O'Connell, man, like, he's got to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year, don't you think?
Which absolutely needs to be. I mean, what he's done, everybody at the beginning of the year when they saw JJ McCarthy go down, obviously when you have a rookie QB, there are always question marks as to how good you're going to be, right? But in that moment when they were like, oh, their clear starter just went under, the Vikings are going to be absolute garbage. And then for them to only have 2 losses on the season is like, I talk about Aaron Glenn and the job he's done, but like, O'Connell has done almost something as miraculous with the Vikings and their offense specifically, and like bringing Sam Darnold, putting him in a position to succeed in the way that we all thought like wasn't possible. We thought he had potential, but he wasn't showing it because he was at that poo-poo organization, the Jets, for so long. But like, dude, this is incredible. I think right there in that moment, he had to have been watching and looking at Sam and probably just super excited for him as an individual, being like, this is so cool to see an entire team so happy for one guy. And it's kind of like the Jared Goff situation, like Detroit, the team, and then the city. We hear MVP, Goff MVP chants all the time, Jared Goff chants all the time in different sports around Detroit. Like this is the same sort of energy, and it's got to be cool to witness as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So who else then? Give me a couple that are in your conversation for Coach of the Year.
You know, this one's interesting because I'd look at like even Harbaugh in the way that he's brought that team into contention, potential playoff position in year one. Like that's just insanely difficult to do. So I'd say O'Connell, Harbaugh, those two would be at the top of my list.
Those two should be in there. I mean, well, a few weeks ago I would have said Tomlin, but not so much anymore as they're kind of sputtering and fizzling out. You know who's kind of a dark horse to me? It's a weird one. Sean McVay. They are the Rams are quietly finishing the season really strong. They started like 1-4 or something. Like they were decimated by the injuries as well. And they're going to go out there and they're going to win the NFC West. And it's a team that's kind of hitting its stride also at the right time. So that would be like a low probability one, but I do think that he deserves a little bit of props there.
You know, I would push back, even though I'm a Browns fan, I would push back on the Tomlin one. I think what he's done in a similar fashion, like having washed up quarterbacks at his disposal and the amount of support that he's put into them. And offensively, they've just produced at a level that the Steelers don't produce at throughout the season. And yeah, they may be on a 2-3 game skid where it's like, oh, okay, they may not be as good as we thought they were, but like, I don't know, that happens toward the end of the year, talking about just being worn down, injuries, so on and so forth, and weather change, all that kind of stuff. But like the fact that he hasn't won yet in his entire career is kind of mind blowing.
Has Mike Tomlin never won Coach of the Year?
Never.
It's because he had all those average seasons that the Steelers we're 9-8 again. Sick.
Yeah, but okay, but we're talking about Joe Burrow potentially winning the MVP without the wins, and yeah, he makes it to the playoff. Like, what about the head coach that gets a garbage team to the playoffs for no apparent reason other than his ability to build culture and get wins?
How dare you disrespect my buddy Joey Burrow?
But it's the argument. The same argument can be applied.
No, I'm giving Mike Tomlin a hard time. My respect for Mike Tomlin was always existing, but since watching the in-season Hard Knocks of the AFC North, it has skyrocketed. That's a coach that you would love to play for. Just kind of his aura and the way that he communicates with his players. He is a real one. However, he does not deserve to be Coach of the Year this year. It's going to be Harbaugh or it's going to be O'Connell, I think.
Who won it last year? Campbell?
Was it D'Amico Ryans? It might have been.
Was it? Mike, can you look that up? Can you see
I'm
who won
Googling. Kevin
Campbell
Stefanski.
Oh, that was such bullshit.
Yeah.
That was such bullshit.
I don't know why that's.
Who is that? I've never heard of this guy.
It's the Cleveland Browns. So
why
like,
did he win
fair. I don't know why that's escaped my mind because it was just like, okay, yeah, great. I mean, he did a great job as well. I talk about Aaron Glenn and what he did with injuries. Like Stefanski did do a pretty solid job in getting Flacco and getting him on a run and getting him to where they were last year. So it's like the fact that I'm embarrassed that I forgot about that, but that's how bad our season has been. It's literally wiped away my memory of the past 24 months.
You memory hold it to protect yourself from the trauma of all of the other Cleveland Browns.
Survival instincts kicked in.
Yeah, there you go. Keep yourself alive, Scott. Just make it to another season, you poor Brownies. All right, so that'll be interesting. We do have a story here about the Eagles here. However, we're going to save it for Mikey's Marvelous Minute, which will be posted as a separate video, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Probably on this same day. So Mikey's Marvelous Minute, stand alone. And Mikey, you talk about the Eagles, don't you?
I talk about the Eagles, yes, and Saquon and running backs and the history of the NFL a little bit. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge. I think you'll enjoy it. I probably hate it, actually.
I love your hodgepodges, Mike. Your hodgepodges, some of the best hodgepodges.
It's a chaotic video.
A cornucopia, if you will.
I worked really hard on it. I hope you guys like it.
We're going to put it on the fridge. So Mikey's Marvelous Minute coming a little bit later. All right, let's look here at this college story that I think is kind of upsetting for a lot of people, a bit of a polarizing one. And if you will just give me a second here, because I am completely unprepared with my links, because I am not there yet. Okay. All right. Wait. Ready. Okay, Mike, will you throw this up? Cam Ward of the Miami Hurricanes, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft this year. He sat out in the second half of the historic, iconic Pop-Tarts Bowl, which that is something in itself that we can talk about, the iconic Pop-Tarts Bowl. So this dude played in the first half of the bowl, and then he pulled himself out after he finished and got a personal record of his own. Like he wanted to get a passing record or a touchdown record. I can't remember what it was. And then he sat himself on the bench. How do you feel about this? Is this better or worse than just not playing in the bowl game at all and just refraining from it?
It's one thing to speculate that the guy was sitting out the entirety of the game based off of personal, his personal desires and such. Okay. But like he made it was bold face in doing this. Like there was no gray area. It was just like, dude, it was very clear. You just quit on your team mid game. It's one thing to quit on your team before the game even kicks off so that they're prepared. But then you just pull the rug out from under them mid game when they're in a battle. That's strange.
Rug pull. I actually think that the optics of this are worse than the reality of it. I think it looks terrible. I think it looks absolutely terrible. But I bet you his motivation was to be there for his team as much as he could. Like we've entered this world, guys sit out bowl games, and if he didn't,
but it wasn't as much as he could.
Well, as much as he,
it was about as much as I could do.
Yeah, it was about half as much as he could do.
You wanted to pull a Nick Alfieri in Germany and sit out and chill in the second half and undo his shoulder pads and maybe have a drink of beer on the sideline. All right. It's one thing to sit out, and this is like we've seen this, and this is becoming commonplace for players to sit out the bowl games, especially meaningless bowl games like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Sorry, Mikey, I know you love Pop-Tarts, your favorite meal.
This is my favorite bowl game. I had a lot of money in that game.
No, Scott, Mikey really does eat Pop-Tarts every day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day. That's my breakfast. S'mores Pop-Tart. It's actually a great breakfast. You got good fats, good carbs. As a pre-workout, it's actually good, healthy.
Oh, yes. Way to convince yourself.
Let's see if we can get a Pop-Tart.
Whatever you believe is true.
Perception is reality. But he did play, at least. I think that his motivation, although it kind of from our perspective and the way that's going to be interpreted by a lot of people is abysmal, he felt like, I bet, that he was being there for his teammates when in a lot of high profile players maybe would not even suit up for that game. My thought is the road to hell is always paved with good intentions, and that's exactly what he did. He thought he was helping his team.
I can't beat that quote.
Oh, man.
No, it's just one of those things, man. Like, look, comparing it to, even though they got the absolute wheels beat off of them, Colorado players Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter both played through the entirety of the game. And the reason they were able to do that was because they thought they too didn't want to abandon their team. And they were out there and they did all that stuff. But before that game, they took out insurance policies to make sure that they would be covered financially for any sort of loss of income should a wild injury occur, right? So if Cam Ward wanted to do that, he easily could have. He's getting paid wild amounts of money in the NIL, and he still would be able to play and potentially have won for his team and gone out on top as like, dude, yeah, he did this. And yeah, he covered his ass at the same time financially because, I mean, shoot, even Tua did this back in the day. I believe it was Tua or Bryce. I'm blanking on the two, but they may have both done this when they didn't make the CFP. They decided to play in that bowl game prior to going to the NFL draft. But the way in which they did that was they took out insurance policies. So there's a way to do this and to do this properly. And you have the financial means to do it and to secure that. So was he really there for his team?
Mike, sold him a policy. As of last week, I am a licensed insurance agent. I would have sold them a hell of a policy.
There you go. Get him a policy. Mike, Scott just mopped the floor with me. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Nick, let me take care of this for you. And, okay, that's better. Scott, really good stuff. Great quote. amazing argument.
I'm like the
and
Packers here. I was just lying in wait, ready to win in the playoffs. That's what
it
I
was
was
beautiful.
going for.
I have nothing to say. You win. Okay, Scott wins.
Is it podcast is over? No, I'm with. Okay, you know what? You're right. You are right there. How does that work then with the insurance policies? Like, how much are they covered for? Like, say a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who is poised to make $30 million in his first NFL contract and probably $100 million over the course of his lifetime, conservatively. What is the structure of these insurance contracts? Is it like if you get a just devastating injury and can no longer play, are you paid $100 million?
Yeah,
You get a disability contract and projected future income, and then be protected against that. So it would be under a disability policy, I believe. And then so whatever future projected loss of income you'll be covered for from the company.
Yeah, and it's probably never going to be apples to apples of like if they were to go through the career and make $150 million and stuff like that. It's hard to project that out at the point in which they are right now.
Premiums probably would be pretty high if they took it out right before the bowl game.
Exactly. Premiums through the roof. And I think there was a data point that came through that it was like some of the highest or one of the highest policies in record, but they didn't give the number because some college players have done this before. And
they can just cancel the policy right after the game.
Yeah.
So like you can pay you pay the first premium policy in effect and then play the game, then cancel void the policy.
Yeah.
And then they keep that premium or whatever.
It's the same sort of disability insurance that I think singers sometimes get too with like their throat or their voice and stuff like that. You can insure your voice. So if it degrades to a certain degree and you can prove it based off of medical reasons or because of your usage, like you can get these insurance policies. Like there are so many niche ways of getting this stuff done.
You guys are nerds. How do you know so much about insurance? What the? Okay, no, that makes sense, and that is, you know what I think this is a testament to, and some people don't like this, is Coach Deion Sanders, his influence on those young guys. Because I actually did, I saved here a couple of these tweets. I lost them. I was looking for them.
I am sorry. I am literally about to die. I need to get out of here in a second.
Okay, all right.
You can wrap it up.
Okay, all right. That's the end of the podcast. Keep that in.
Quote of the day.
Finish up. What were we talking about when Scott pooped his pants?
We were talking about Deion's influence.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In the bowl.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say that I think that this is just a testament to Deion Sanders and the culture that he's kind of set there and the way that he leads the young men of that program and making them kind of finish what they started and do things the right way. So that's what I think about that. And all
I agree. And then also I think it was probably his idea of the insurance policies because he's very smart like that.
Yeah, he is.
Cam Ward probably didn't have anybody around him that either knew that was a possibility or whatever, because he probably would have done the same thing had he known that was a possibility.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to find any good mentors in Miami. It's just what kind of people are there? So there's no good smart mentors in Miami. All right, Mike. No. Where you go? Laura's making dinner right now, so we got to go. Tell everybody at home I say hi.
Okay,
everybody.
I'll take over your room now.
Clean my room. Everybody, thank you for watching. Scott, get well soon. All right. Peace.